Sister got upset when our dad got engaged to his GF and tried to set him up with someone else, because she's still holding on to the fantasy our parents will get back together. Hello everyone. I, 23M, have 2 younger siblings, Anna, 21F, and Chloe, 19F. We've always been close growing up, at least I thought we were. Our parents split up when I was 9 and our mom became pretty much a deadbeat. I've seen her maybe 5 times in the last 10 years, so my dad, 50M, raised us, and it's pretty much always been just us and him against the world. Mom never even fought for custody, which was weird because she was the one who always said family was everything. Dad later told me she'd met some guy online and wanted to find herself or whatever. The court gave Dad full custody since Mom didn't contest it and basically admitted she wasn't in a position to take care of us. I don't really remember much from when they first split. I was in 4th grade, and I just remember coming home from school one day and my mom's car wasn't in the driveway. She'd packed up most of her stuff while we were at school. My dad was sitting at the kitchen table with this weird look on his face. He didn't cry or anything, just looked empty, I guess? Anna took it the hardest, I think. She was only 7 and kept asking when Mom was coming back. Chloe was just 5, so she adjusted pretty quick, but Anna never really did. For the first year she would sit by the window on weekends waiting for Mom to show up for her scheduled visits, and half the time she wouldn't come. Eventually Mom moved to another state with some boyfriend, and the visits got less and less frequent. Dad tried his best to give us a normal childhood. He'd work all day and then come home and make dinner, help with homework, do the laundry, all that stuff. He never complained, but sometimes I'd wake up at night and hear him in his room just talking to himself, like he was trying to figure shit out. I started helping more with my sisters when I got older, making sure they got on the school bus and stuff so Dad could get to work on time. Even after he started dating Fiona, 44F, when I was 15, our family dynamic stayed mostly the same and there were pretty much no issues aside from some adjusting in the beginning. I remember being kind of cold to her at first, not because I disliked her or anything, just because I was a moody teenager and didn't want any replacement mom in my life. But she never tried to force anything, which I appreciated. She'd just come over for dinner sometimes or we'd all go to movies together, normal stuff. Dad was always really careful about how he introduced her to us. He'd been dating her for like 3 months before we even met her, and then it was just casual hangouts for a long time. I think he was paranoid about disrupting our lives even more after what happened with Mom. Fiona would bring us little gifts sometimes, nothing big, just like candy or if she saw something that reminded her of one of our interests. She got me this keychain once with a little basketball on it because I was on the school team, and I still have it actually. Chloe recently moved out after living at home for her first year at college, and a few months later, my dad announced that he and Fiona were engaged and going to get married. In my opinion, everyone expected this would happen since they were together so long, but Anna was very upset. She's been complaining to everyone about it for weeks, but mostly to me since I'm the oldest. She says it's like he was just waiting for us all to grow up and get out of the house so that he could move in his new woman and be a family with her instead. She also doesn't like that there's an almost 7-year age gap between them, because he and our mom were high school sweethearts, and our mom was actually a few months older, so she feels like our dad is replacing her with a younger model. Side note, she's never liked Fiona because she was still hoping my parents would get back together when he and Fiona started dating. Mom was less of a deadbeat then, though still pretty absent. Mom would occasionally call on holidays, or send a random text checking in every few months. She sent birthday cards with like $20 in them sometimes, but they'd usually arrive a week late. She did show up for Anna's high school graduation, which I thought was nice, but then she spent the whole time talking about her new life and didn't really ask Anna anything about her plans for college. Dad was polite to her, but you could tell he was annoyed. Fiona didn't come to the graduation party after, probably to avoid drama. Anna also thinks there isn't much passion between Dad and Fiona, because every time she was over at our place, they barely touched and just treated each other like polite acquaintances. Like, they never were super affectionate in front of us. But I always just figured they were being respectful since we were kids. She also doesn't see why he has to move her in before they're even married because Fiona is financially well off and doesn't need the stability. She wants to be able to spend this summer with just our dad and us, without anyone else moving in yet. I think what bothers Anna the most is that Dad didn't consult with us before proposing. He just came home one day and said I asked Fiona to marry me and she said yes. I was surprised by the timing but not the fact it was happening. Chloe just said cool and went back to her phone, which is typical Chloe behavior. But Anna got all quiet and then went to her room. Dad looked disappointed by our lack of enthusiasm but didn't say anything else about it. Then Anna told me once we were alone that she's planning on trying to set him up with one of her friend's single mom instead, who she feels is much more age appropriate and likable than Fiona and whom she thinks he'd have more chemistry with. She's planning on telling him this weekend and wants me to back her up. When I asked her what the hell she was thinking, she went on this weird rant about how the friend's mom reminds her of our mom before she changed. The thing is, setting dad up with someone who reminds her of our mom won't magically bring our mom back or fix our family. I tried pointing that out, but Anna got defensive and said it's not about that at all. According to her, she just wants dad to be with someone who fits better into our family. I think she's built up this whole fantasy that if dad ends up with someone mom-like, it'll somehow heal all the old wounds from the divorce. I just lost my patience and told her to leave me out of this and that she's ruining his life by trying to set him up on some blind date as if he's a child. She started crying and told me all she wants is what's best for him because Fiona's the wrong woman and he's making a mistake, but I said I don't see how this would help when he's already engaged and that she's being stupid. She called me an for being so harsh and hasn't talked to me since then. It's been like 3 days and Anna's still giving me the silent treatment. I know my dad's noticed something's off between us, and I'm worried she's just going to go ahead with her plan without me. She keeps sending these passive-aggressive texts about how at least someone in this family cares about dad's happiness. I don't even know what to say to that. The woman she wants to set him up with is her college friend Jess's mom, who's divorced and apparently super cool according to Anna. I've never met her, but Anna showed me a picture and yeah, she's pretty I guess, but who cares? Dad is engaged to someone he's been with for 8 years. It's completely insane to think he's just going to drop everything because Anna introduces him to some random woman. I tried talking to Chloe about it but she just shrugged and said Anna will get over it eventually. Easy for her to say since she's not the one getting the angry texts every few hours. Dad asked me yesterday if something was going on with Anna because she's been cold to him too. I just said she's probably stressed about summer classes, she's not taking any, but I panicked. Should I have been more gentle? But seriously, who tries to set up their engaged parent on a blind date? I'm truly at a loss here. Ida? Update 1. First off, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I honestly didn't expect to get so many responses and I've tried to read them all, though there are way too many to respond to individually. Special thanks to those who'd me with advice about dealing with siblings who are still hung up on parents getting back together. That was really helpful. To address some common comments, no, our mom isn't dead. Several people asked this for some reason even when I mentioned before that she sends us cards and stuff. Yes, I've talked to my dad about Anna's behavior before but never in specific terms, just mentioned that she seemed upset about the engagement. And no, my dad didn't spring the relationship on us. As I said, he's been with Fiona for like 8 years, the engagement was expected by everyone except apparently Anna. Anyway, a lot's gone down since my last post, so I thought I should update. I tried talking to Anna once more about not doing this blind date thing, but she flat out refused. She kept saying that dad was making the biggest mistake of his life and that I was being selfish for not helping her stop it. I tried explaining that it wasn't our place to decide who he should be with, but she just wouldn't listen. She even had this whole PowerPoint presentation prepared, I shit you not, about why Fiona wasn't right for him and why this other woman, let's call her Karen, would be better. The presentation included things like compatible interests, Karen likes fishing, which dad used to do before he got too busy raising us, age appropriate, Karen is 49, so only 1 year younger than dad, and get this, physical chemistry potential with pictures of both women side by side like some weird comparison chart. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. It was beyond uncomfortable. So as many folks suggested, I went and told my dad I had to warn him about something. Here's where I maybe messed up a bit. Fiona was there and maybe I should have said it privately, but there was no time because Anna had mentioned wanting to talk to dad that evening. They were both in the kitchen making dinner together. Dad was chopping vegetables and Fiona was stirring something on the stove. They looked so normal. Like they'd been doing this routine for years, which I guess they had been whenever she came over. He asked what was wrong and I just couldn't get the words out properly. I was super nervous, so I just blurted out that it's about the engagement, and that it was best he heard it from Anna directly. Well, of course he immediately went to her room to get her. We all sat in the living room. Chloe was already watching TV there, completely oblivious to the drama about to unfold lol, and after some coaxing from him, Anna just exploded. She started crying and saying it wasn't fair, things were happening too fast, he just decided to get engaged without even consulting us and we were just supposed to go along with it like we're still children. She said we never consented to our mom leaving us and had no say in our parents splitting up, so that we should have at least had a say in who we started dating next. PLS note, this isn't what I personally feel at all, I was cringing the whole time. Dad looked confused and said, Anna, I've been with Fiona for almost a decade. This can't possibly be a surprise to you. Anna said it wasn't about the time, It was about the commitment and how once they're married everything would change. Dad asked what exactly she thought would change, and she couldn't really answer specifically, just kept saying everything. Then she pulled out her phone and started showing him pictures of Karen, saying she'd be perfect for him and they should at least meet for coffee before he commits to marrying Fiona. I wanted to sink into the couch and disappear. Anyway, my dad just looked absolutely shell-shocked. He clearly had no idea Anna felt this way or that she'd go this far. Seeing his face made me feel god-awful, like maybe I should have talked to her more before letting it get to this point. He looked silently at Fiona, who was sitting there trying to stay composed. She suddenly burst into tears. This honestly scared me because I've never seen her cry in the 8 years I've known her. My dad's rarely weepy and I've even seen him cry more often than her. Dad held her hand, and she just kept sobbing, "I told you, I told you." I felt even worse because apparently she had already sensed Anna's hostility, but my dad probably reassured her it was fine. One nice thing was Chloe, who hadn't said much about the engagement either way before, got emotional seeing this whole scene unfold, so she actually went over and gave Fiona a hug. I felt like doing it too but thought it'd be weird since I've never hugged her before. Dad took a deep breath and just stared at the wall for what felt like forever but was probably only a minute. He asked Anna if she really thought he would just break up with the woman he loves because she found someone else she thought was better suited. Anna said something about how he should explore his options or some BS. Dad then asked if she had contacted this Karen woman already, and Anna admitted that yes, she'd told her all about him and showed her his Facebook pictures and Karen was totally interested. My dad looked mortified. He said he couldn't believe she would go behind his back like that, and that it was completely inappropriate. Anna started crying harder and said she was just trying to help, and Dad softened a bit. He hugged Anna and said he was sorry he never realized how she felt. He said it's too late to set him up with anyone. I managed to discreetly get Anna to add the detail about the blind date when I first warned Dad, if he was going to be with anyone it would be Fiona, but if this engagement was really hurting her the two of them would talk about whether it can be postponed. He did say it's a done deal that Fiona's moving in this summer though, since she already ended her lease and made arrangements with her landlord and everything. After Anna calmed down a bit, Dad asked her to apologize to Fiona, which she did, though it seemed pretty forced. Fiona just nodded and said she understood that change is hard. I was impressed by how gracious she was being honestly, because if I were her I would have been furious. Long story short, he arranged family therapy for all of us. Fiona actually suggested it and said she was willing to participate if it would help smooth things over. I don't think I personally need therapy, but I think I'm going to do it just to help the family situation. Chloe agreed to go too and Anna hasn't said anything since this happened, but I think that's a sign she's accepted it. Things were okay for the rest of the evening, thank God no blind date happened. I should probably mention that I don't normally live at home anymore, I have my own apartment about 30 minutes away. I was just staying at Dad's for a few weeks because my place had some water damage from a burst pipe and was being repaired. Anna was home because she just finished her semester and planned to stay for the summer to save money. And Chloe had moved back temporarily after her freshman year dorms closed. We ordered pizza since the dinner they were making was forgotten during all the drama. No one talked much during the meal. Anna excused herself early and went back to her room. Chloe put on some movie none of us were really watching. I kept stealing glances at Dad and Fiona. They looked exhausted. Dad pulled me aside later and asked if I was okay and thanked me for warning him. He said he was proud of me for looking out for the family. I teared up a bit, not gonna lie. He also apologized for not realizing how Anna felt and said he should have been more attentive. I told him it wasn't his fault and that Anna's reaction was way out of proportion, but he just said everyone processes grief and change differently. After we all went to our rooms, I saw him and Fiona sat on the porch for the rest of the night with his arm around her. They were talking quietly, and honestly it made me feel better seeing them like that. It was the first time I really noticed how comfortable they seemed together. Not in a showy way, but in that quiet way people are when they've known each other a long time. I'm honestly relieved things are out in the open now. Things have been relatively calm since then. Anna's still quiet, but at least she's not avoiding us entirely or objected to therapy. The first session starts early July and he's booked it for just us 4 siblings and Dad for now. Fiona will join later. The next morning I ran into Fiona in the kitchen. She was making coffee and looked like she hadn't slept much. She asked me if I wanted some and I said sure. We stood there awkwardly for a minute before she said, "Thank you for yesterday." I just nodded and said I was sorry about Anna. She said it was okay, that she understands it's complicated. Then she asked if I was okay with the engagement, and I told her truthfully that I was happy for them. She looked relieved. Oh, and in case anyone is wondering, Dad told Anna she needed to message Karen and apologize for misleading her and explain that he was already in a committed relationship. Anna threw another fit about this but eventually did it. Karen apparently responded that she understood and wished him well, which was probably the best possible outcome. Thanks for all the support, everyone. I'm really hopeful things will get better from now on. #update 2. Wow, wasn't expecting this post to get so much attention. Thanks for the awards and stuff, though I'm not sure I deserve them for basically just snitching on my sister lol. Some of you asked for an update, so here it is. Hopefully the last one, since I'm kinda tired of this whole situation. Once again, lots has gone down, though maybe not as dramatic as some of you were hoping for. Before I get into it, I just want to address some of the comments and questions I got. 1. No, I don't think my dad was wrong for not consulting us before getting engaged. That was Anna's opinion, not mine. He's an adult and can make his own decisions. 2. Yes, I realize therapy isn't a magic fix for everything, but it's what Dad suggested, so we're trying it. 3. No, I don't know what happened to our mom exactly. Last I heard she was living with some guy in Arizona or New Mexico, I forget which. She sends the occasional text on birthdays, but that's about it. 4. Several people seem to think all of us siblings were girls for some reason. I'm a dude with a big ass balls under. 5. And to the person who'd me asking if Fiona is hot, WTF is wrong with you? She's my dad's fiancée, I don't think about her that way. I want to first say thank you again to everyone who sent support messages. Trying to deal with all this when I wanted no part in my sister's schemes has been exhausting. So, we had the therapy, 2 sessions so far. All 4 of us went, but as everyone expected, the therapist quickly figured that Anna had deep-seated issues and needed individual therapy too. So we've rearranged for family therapy to be bi-weekly while Anna will go weekly. She's still been quiet outside of the sessions, but at least she's cooperated and shown up. The first session was just a lot of getting to know each other and establishing ground rules. The therapist is this older lady with gray hair who speaks really softly but somehow manages to keep everyone on track. Dad did most of the talking, explaining our family history. I didn't say much, just confirmed things when asked directly. Anna sat with her arms crossed the whole time but did answer the therapist's questions. The second session got more intense. The therapist asked us each to share our feelings about the engagement. I said I was happy for Dad and Fiona. Chloe said the same. Anna just stared at the floor for a while, then started crying about how she felt like Dad was trying to replace our mom. Dad tried to explain that's not what was happening at all, but Anna wasn't really listening. She cried some more while talking about our mom and mentioned feeling betrayed that Chloe and I seemed to get over mom's absence so easily. Side note, that's not true at all. I can't speak for Chloe, but I grieved over our mom's abandonment too. I just dealt with it differently. I internalized a lot and I felt mostly angry at her, not yearning for her to come back. The therapy we had as kids helped me cope a lot, but I guess Anna never really processed it all. There was this weird moment where the therapist asked Anna what she remembers about our parents' relationship before the divorce. Anna started talking about how they were always laughing together and how Dad would bring Mom flowers every Friday, and how they would dance in the kitchen while making dinner. Dad looked confused and said he doesn't remember doing any of that, at least not regularly. He said they were having problems for years before Mom left, and that they argued a lot. It's like Anna had created this perfect fantasy version of their marriage that never existed. The therapist suggested that Anna might be idealizing the past and projecting her desire for a perfect family onto our parents' relationship. Anna got defensive and said she wasn't making anything up, she remembers it clearly. Dad gently said that memories can sometimes change over time, especially when we're young. This made Anna even more upset, and she accused Dad of trying to rewrite history to justify replacing Mom with Fiona. At that point the therapist suggested we take a break, and when we came back, she shifted the conversation to talk about our individual relationships with Dad. That went better. Even Anna admitted that Dad has always been there for us and supported us in everything we do. Chloe talked about how he never missed a single soccer game even though he had to work overtime to make up for it later. I mentioned how he taught me to drive and was so patient even when I accidentally backed into a mailbox. Though she's committed to continuing therapy, Anna went back to her own place rather than staying at Dad's to save money during summer like she originally planned. I think it's for the best right now. We had a brief heart-to-heart before she left, and I told her that while I know she's still mad at me, I still love her and will always be there for her. She seemed to appreciate that, even though she didn't say much back. I can tell our relationship won't be the same for a while, which sucks a bit because I've looked out for my sister since our mom walked out on us. But I know I did the right thing in telling her she was wrong with what she was doing to our dad and Fiona. I helped Anna pack up her car, which was mostly awkward silence until she suddenly asked me if I ever miss Mom. I told her honestly that I sometimes wonder what my life would be like if Mom had stayed, but I stopped actively missing her presence years ago. She nodded and said she thinks about her every day. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just gave her an extra long hug before she left. Fiona's mostly all moved in now, and TBH, it's been nice overall. Some comments were misunderstanding my stance on her, so I want to reiterate, I've never had a problem with Fiona. And I never thought my dad needed any permission from us to date anyone. It was just enough for me that he was open with us about it. The reason I seemed indifferent before is because I was already 15 to 16 when I first met her and moved out only 2.5 years later for college. We didn't really bond much then because she was very hands-off with us, which I was actually okay with. Back then, while I was 100% okay with my dad dating, I wasn't in the headspace to see any partner of his as a familial figure because of how my mom had treated us when she would occasionally pop back into our lives just to disappear again. I was very introverted and only felt secure with my dad and siblings, but that was a long time ago and it's different now. She and Chloe started going shopping and getting their nails done together, which is kind of cute to see. Chloe's never been much of a girly girl, her words, but she seems to enjoy these outings. I usually make omelets for breakfast on weekends when I'm home. It's like the one thing I know how to cook well, and Fiona praises them to the skies every time lol. It's a small thing but it makes me feel appreciated. She also got me this fancy omelet pan as a random gift, which was unexpected but nice. And yes, we finally had that hug I mentioned feeling awkward about before. It was when I was helping her with some of her boxes outside the house and I just blurted out that I'm grateful she's still staying by my dad despite all this drama and that they deserve to be happy together. She was the one who got teary-eyed and pulled me into a hug and said she was grateful to me for going to bat for my dad and her. I'll admit I got a bit emotional too. I know it's totally fine that I'll never see her as a parent figure, but in that moment for some reason, I felt this weird protective instinct I usually only feel with my sisters. I'd get if that's normal or not, but it felt right somehow. Fiona's not trying to be our mom, which I think is what Anna doesn't understand. She's just trying to be herself and find her place in our family. She doesn't try to parent us or give unsolicited advice. She's just there. In a good way. Like an additional support person who makes Dad happy. Dad seems more relaxed now that the air has been cleared, even with the therapy and Anna's issues. I caught him whistling while doing the dishes the other day, which is something I haven't heard him do in years. He and Fiona have this evening routine now where they have tea on the porch and just talk about their day. Sometimes I join them, and it's nice. I'm going back to my own place in a few days, too. Not because anything's wrong, but I want my dad and Fiona to have their space. Chloe will still be home for the summer, but at least it'll be less crowded with just her. Plus I need to get back to my job and my own life. Dad and Fiona haven't set a new wedding date yet, but they seem happy just being engaged for now. I think they're waiting to see how the therapy goes with Anna before making any big announcements. Dad mentioned they might do something small, maybe just a courthouse ceremony with a dinner after, which sounds more their style anyway. Thanks to everyone who sent good wishes to me and my family. If anything major happens I might update again, but honestly I'm hoping things just settle down into boring normal family life from here. This has been enough drama to last us a while. Edit 1. Fix some typos. Edit 2. No, I don't think Anna will try to sabotage the wedding or anything like that. She might be upset but she's not malicious. She'll probably come around eventually.